Hi folks, Harold Ree here with the Paw Print Animal Rescue Podcast. Before we get to our incredible guest, Alex Hofeldt, wanted to share some of the podcasts that I listen to when I'm not working on paw print. I'll just mention 4. The first 2 I do listen to on a regular basis. The first one is called Pawcast, all one word, Pawcast, and it's run for and by Friends of the Animals in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They focus pretty much on their own organization, hosted by Catherine O'Brien. She does a wonderful job, just a great personality, terrific interviewer, and they put this show together with all these different interviews all in a real quick, compact package. If you're an animal rescue and you've kind of thought to yourself, hey, I might want to start my own podcast, I would definitely recommend that you check out Pawcast. Second, if you suffer from insomnia, or if you just like to listen to something as you're going to sleep, I would highly recommend the Sleep With Me podcast. You may not have ever heard of this podcast, but just to let you know, it, I think right now, is one of the top 100 most listened to podcasts in the world. A gentleman in San Francisco actually hosts the podcast. He calls himself Scooter. And if you can imagine a podcast that is essentially trying to make you go to sleep, a little bit of funny, a little bit mundane, a little bit random, but honestly, it works. I very rarely listen all the way through to an episode, and his episodes are long. You'll have an hour-long episode, and you might fall asleep within the first 5 minutes. The Sleep With Me podcast. And finally, 2 podcasts that I'm just starting to check out, just kind of feeling them out, but from 2 different parts of the spectrum here. First, the God Zone Show. As you might imagine, it's actually a Christian, faith-based business coaching podcast run by a gentleman named Paul Johnson. Great interviews, really inspiring stories from his guests. And on the other end of the spectrum, Alter Ego, hosted by Athena Rosette, a mind-blowing show. It is what you might think it is. It is literally interviews and discussions with people about alter egos, whether they actually have their own alter egos, figurative alter ego, a literal alter ego. Some amazing stuff on alter ego. So once again, Pawcast, Sleep With Me podcast, The God Zone Show, and Alter Ego. Take a moment to check them out and on to our show. This is Paw Print, an animal rescue community, episode 58. I'm Harold Ree.
And I'm Nancy Ree. Today's guest is Alex Hofeldt, host of the inspirational science podcast, Beautiful Dust Specks.
More importantly, it makes you feel excited and pumped up to be what you are, this walking, talking, thinking, feeling ball of star matter energized by starlight. Then I can help you guys out.
Alex is a science teacher, tennis coach, yoga and CrossFit instructor, and today we discuss his podcast, his own journey, and his 2 rescue dogs, Cosmo and Hubble. If you want to learn more about Alex Hofeldt and Beautiful Dust Specks, go to our show notes at thisispawprint.com/58. That's the number 58.
I'm Alex Hofeldt. My primary job is high school science teacher. I teach biology and astronomy to sophomores, seniors, and juniors and such. I'm also a high school tennis coach. I coach girls and boys JV tennis. It's actually a decent list here. I am a yoga instructor. I've been a yoga instructor for 2 years. I've also been a fitness instructor for about 5 now. And recently I started doing a podcast called Beautiful Dust Specks. So I guess I could say I'm a science communicator, which would something I never really thought I'd title myself, although it was a dream. And I also chase around 2 little puppies that I rescued about 2 years ago.
What's been your interest in fitness and health?
A lot of it honestly comes from science, where just from a young age I was always into sports and athletics, and stories would be that my friends would come over and their moms would call my mom asking, like, did they feed them because they'd lose weight, because I just was a very active child. So I always just enjoyed moving and messing around and doing all that. And then as it just kept going, I just did it for sports, and I played college golf. And so I did it for golf a lot. And then after that, it just more and more about what you can get out of your body. And I just enjoy it, keeps me active, keeps my busy mind satiated.
What's been your journey to teacher and now science podcaster?
I grew up with a house of teachers. My mom's a home ec teacher and my dad was a chemistry and biology teacher. So I grew up in kind of a nerdy household, and people always laugh when they come over for dinner, like, oh, now I see it, after one conversation at dinner. But so I always just enjoyed it. And then there'd been multiple times in life. I remember when I was a little kid, learning about hydrochloric acid in my stomach, and a few other times, like a bunch of them actually happened while teaching, that I'd just been kind of overwhelmed by the awesomeness of science. But at the beginning, it was probably just because, you want to impress your dad. So you just tell him that's your favorite subject and stuff. But then it ends up becoming it. And then I fell in love with it. I always have. It's my mission with the whole thing. And the podcast has always been a dream of mine. For not always, I guess, because it's been around that long, but for the last 3 or 4 years now, I've just voraciously listened to podcasts, and the amount of conversation and learning and stuff that can be obtained from it is just awesome. I decided 2 years ago I wanted to do it, but it took me a while to get the motivation and get over the fear of doing it. And then I just threw my hat in the ring and threw my voice out into the ether. And it's just it's a basic show where I'm trying to show people that the more you understand science, like the greater your understanding of the universe and the more layers of reality you peel back, the more amazing life is to me. So in my mind, it's in essence a motivational podcast as much as it's a knowledge-based podcast. I break down a topic every week, try and give it as much fact and information as possible, but I also don't want it to be just like a straight science podcast. I want it to be fun and be able to be obtainable for any listener. And then I do the little sci-fulness episodes midweek where I try and just kind of talk a little bit about it as a way you can use it to internalize and hopefully make you feel happy and healthy and a little bit of mindful, because that's another, I do dabble. Being the yoga teacher, I do mindfulness training with the students and such, and it's a pretty powerful tool. So the science is always my motivational aspect of life. So hopefully I'm getting out to people. We'll see.
How would you describe to a potential listener what the format of your podcast is?
Hopefully we'll be more interview based sooner, but it's trying to be a story. It's trying to be a fun story. It's hopefully you can sit down and listen to it and you're obtaining the knowledge. Like I throw a lot of stuff at you because I try and keep it, from 15 to 30 minutes. It's not incredibly long form, but it just hopefully breaks down the topic and it'll bring you science in a unique viewpoint. And it always pains me how many people tell me they hated science class, but as a teacher, I can tell you science can get very boring. So hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's entertaining. Hopefully you laugh. And then if one thing sticks per episode with you, or if even more importantly, it makes you feel excited and pumped up to be what you are, this walking, talking, thinking, feeling ball of star matter energized by starlight, then I can help you guys out.
As I've listened to your podcast, you've covered a wide range of science topics. I mean, you've covered gravity in one or two of them. You had one on whale poop, of all things.
I kind of have the gift of gab. Once I get my mind wrapped around something, a lot of it is just kind of conscious thought that I'm just putting into the microphone. Like I only do one take. Once I get it going, I just kind of start and see where it takes me. I get some kind of information in my brain that'll motivate me. Like the gravity one was when the gravity waves from Einstein came out. So I get a little like inspiration or whatever my muse is for the week based on what I'm learning about. Then I dive in and I research. Some of the episodes have taken me multiple hours of research, and I have a big dry erase board in front of me that I kind of outline chunks of the episode with little blurbs, like a little concept web, and try and follow it to the best of my ability. But it sometimes just kind of goes, but a lot of it, after a while, it ends up just me looking at the microphone and just kind of, rapping. The whale poop one's pretty crazy. The research, the more I get into the research, I learn something, it opens up something cool every single time. The last one on carbon, I really enjoyed. It was a fun one to start learning about, and it's cool. It's a growing based experience.
I like the carbon one too. I like the image that you made that we're basically a sponge, right? Because we're like whatever, huge percentage of water, right?
Yeah, it's super cool.
Beautiful Dust Specks. Definitely one of the more memorable names.
Thank you.
What does Beautiful Dust Specks mean to you, or what do you want it to mean?
You ever read Calvin and Hobbes?
Yes.
So if you go on Calvin and Hobbes, you ever seen the Scream the Dust Speck one?
I thought it was a pop culture reference, but anyways, why don't you go ahead?
It has multiple layers to it. So that was my original. I give this huge speech to the kids at the end of the year. It's kind of my empty the tank moment. And the first slide is this comic, and it's little Calvin screaming up into the cosmos, "I'm significant." And then, the cosmos looks back, and it just says, "Scream the Dust Speck." So that was kind of where I went with it, where I wanted to call it Screaming Dust Specks, but I thought that was a little weird. So what it means is, to me, when you teach astronomy, even science to whatever, you get smaller and smaller. People feel very small and they feel insignificant. They start to, on like a scale concept, you are. I mean, you're beyond significant. But what I think science teaches you, and I want people to see and hear and listen to, is that the smaller you get in the ever-expanding cosmos, the more gorgeous you are, the more amazing and epically and amazing, just awesome it is, and the more beautiful you are. So although you're this tiny little dust speck, you're beautiful beyond measure just because of cognition, thought, feelings, and emotions. Like the crazy human experiences all exist on this tiny little rock floating around a tiny little sun and tiny little universe, you know? Yeah. So that's just kind of what it means. It's although you're tiny, you're huge beyond measure.
You teach high school students science or high school science. Who was your ideal listener for the podcast?
Ooh, good one. These are great questions. I should write these down for mine later. I'll take them. No, I'm just kidding. Really anybody, to be honest with you. Like, of course, I'd love for the students to get it, but I'd like for somebody to just get kind of stoked on it and just have a little bit of it resonate with them here and there. Somebody who maybe didn't like science, who thought they didn't get it, or anybody who's a science fanatic. I'd also would hope that somebody who really enjoys science gets something out of it. I listen to all kinds of science podcasts, and I always try and teach and do things based on what I like to listen to it. And a few of the episodes, I think, it would be a good one. So students, people, moms, dads, friends, family, I mean, really anybody. That's the whole idea, is a greater understanding of science is good for, I think it's good for society. And then I truly, truly believe that it's good for you as well. Like it can make you feel more special, more happy, more healthy, and kind of connects you with the world around you, which connects you more with yourself.
Anything else that we should know about you or your journey?
Oh, it's been a tumultuous one. My journey now consists of the challenge of raising 2 puppies. They've been fun, but no, I'm a pretty outspoken person, probably to a fault, but I probably care too much about certain things in terms of teaching and such. But no, the journey's the journey. 32 years old, looking forward to tomorrow, and go forth with a little bit of excitement and a little bit of fear, mixed into one.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us about your 2 dogs and what got you to the point of adopting them?
Well, I always loved dogs. I grew up with dogs. My mom, we're just a dog family. So I actually bought a little Bichon Poodle when I was in college, and he was awesome. His name was Wrigley. He was great. He was not rescued. I always felt bad about that, but I fell in love with him at a little puppy place. They were not a puppy mill, I hope. When I went to student teaching, my mom took him because I was so busy, and it turned into my mom begging me to keep him. So I kind of lost my dog to my mom. So then we were just going back and forth, and although I knew that my life is not the most conducive for dogs just because I am as busy as I'm talking about here, so I wanted to rescue one, and we kind of went over to a little shelter, and my mom went with me, and she brought out Hubble, who was very standoffish and looked a little skittish. The poor dog was, absolutely filthy. He was just matted to beyond belief and just kind of a mess, and he ran around a little bit. I told her I wanted a smaller hypoallergenic dog. And I was looking for like a soft-coated Wheaten Terrier or like a Golden Doodle kind of size, which these dudes are pretty small. Uh-huh. But so we ended up going through, and she brought him out and then brought out Cosmos, and they ran around. He was just very, very, I guess, cozy. He was very cuddly and stuff. My mom kind of just made the comment, well, why don't you get both? And it was like, oh, no. So I ended up falling in love with both of them, which was kind of funny because I would have probably picked Kaz over Hubble, and Hubble's a way better dog. They're sleeping right now. They're looking at me, but hopefully he doesn't hear me. But one of them is way easier to take care of than the other. So then I got them and dove in, and we're happy together. But raising 2 dogs is very challenging for me. I've raised one many a times, and I've trained one. Figuring out how to train 2 at once, it's been challenging. Like constant twisting of the leashes, and one is a little more jumpy than the other, kind of thing. But no, it's been quite the journey. But I think they're happy. They look happy. I'm happy.
What are some of the more memorable moments in the past couple years with Cosmos or Hubble?
Most days are pretty great with dogs. The few days where, poop or pee or puke comes into play, and, all these guys like rolling and stuff, which is always a wonderful day, isn't it? When you got to clean them for 10 minutes as they're covered in whatever God knows. That's what having a dog is, though. I mean, there's nothing on the planet is more excited to see you. You could leave for 5 minutes or 5 hours, and you come back, and they're just the most excited things ever. So it's always a wonderful thing with that. But yeah, just the good days, where they're happy, we're happy, keep them outside, keep them active, and nothing goes wrong, nothing gets eaten. No, they're cool guys though. They're really fun. They're good ones. I've kind of had to come to terms with they're going to be home alone here and there just based on my lifestyle, but in the end I think they're very happy, healthy dogs. So we're getting a new house soon with a fence, so their life should be a lot better.
Is that the big plan for 2016?
Kind of. It kind of just fell into our laps, a friend of a friend, and we actually gonna get to live on a lake, and it's one of those joint ventures where my family's it's gonna be kind of my house / the lake house. I'm gonna rent this little townhouse that I have, but I'm actually the most excited about A, the water, and B, that we're gonna put up a big fence and they can run around. They're very high energy dogs, but they'll play with each other. So I just have a hard time letting them out the townhouse because it's good until one person comes out the door. Then it's like, this might be awkward. You never know how people are gonna react to two little yippy dogs running up to him.
What kind of dogs are they?
She said Maltese poodles, but honestly, they're just little poodles. They just look like little. They have curly hair, short ears, fluffy tails. They're, I don't know, maybe a foot and a half wide by a foot and a half tall. Pretty tiny. Yeah. They're not very big, but yeah, I just call them little poodles. They don't look very Maltesey, even though that's what the rescue place got them from some puppy mill in Minnesota and stuff. So they have some quirks. They're definitely, I think they have some baggage for sure. It's been interesting. It's my first rescue experience. I feel like you got to be more mindful here and there. Like you just have to learn what they do and do not respond to. Like I've had him for close to 3 years now. Cosmos does not like being pulled on. Like if you grab his collar, even just to gently tug him, like, come here, buddy. He'll get really like rigor mortis. He'll just go like lock knees and stuff. And it really looks like it stresses him out. So I'm assuming he had been pulled and hit, and they definitely respond more negatively to loud, if you ever do get a little mad and raise your voice. And so I've had to make sure that I kind of train them and respond to them in slightly, I guess, easier ways than I would another dog. I've only really raised one dog, but not that I'm mean or anything like that. I'm not that guy, but even just the smallest little aggression with these two really affects them in a negative way. And at the beginning, they were different. Like I had twice a dog ran up to them and they pretty much went to the bathroom all over themselves. And every once in a while, if you got too mad, like they ate something, you screamed at them, just even like aloud, like, "What are you doing?" Then Kaz would pee, just like a lot of just things that I'd never really experienced. And these two are the biggest lickers I've ever had of any dogs I've ever seen. Like, oh my God, it's the worst part. They lick each other, they lick me, they lick things. It's just like lick. But so I don't know if that's a rescue thing or just this breed. But
no, yeah, I don't think it's a rescue thing. I think it's a Cosmos and Hubble thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. It like they lick each other. Like I'll come find them and their faces are all like fluffed up. My God, that's the craziest part.
Have you ever thought of the science of whatever companionship, right? I mean, sometimes you read studies that owning a dog will lower your blood pressure. I mean,
for sure. Yeah, I've read a lot about that stuff. I actually wish that high schools and such would use more of the animal-based therapies. I think there's a lot of progressive schools out there that do that have animal rooms, and I'm a firm believer in that. Yeah, the dogs are wonderful. I mean, I love dogs. Like I said, they're always pumped to see you. They're always there. And I always joke around, like from a yoga standpoint, if you live like a dog, you can live happy because a dog just lives in the now more than any other animal on the planet. There's a lot of cognitive things and a lot of the stress receptors and stuff like that are pretty awesome when you have a puppy in your life. I agree. I think dogs are a huge part of life. Now I'll come home, and since practice is here, I'll come home and just do yoga by myself, in the room with the dogs running around on me, because I feel bad leaving them. But when it's not in season, then a lot of times I go to the gym, or I'll go to like my CrossFit gym, or I'll go to a yoga studio, and I'll bring them with. A lot of times I'll put them in the car for 45 minutes while I'm working out, and they can see me, like stick their heads out the window when it's not too hot or too cold, and then we'll go run around in a field for a while and chase the ball and have a good time. And then I come home and try and get to bed by 9 o'clock and try and eat healthy throughout the day. And a couple days a week I podcast now, and yeah, it's a busy day. It's action packed. Try and learn something new every day.
If anybody was to ask you, "Hey, Alex, why should I consider a dog rescue?" what would you say?
Oh, just because that's a good one. It's these little guys are out there and they didn't ask for any of this stuff. And although not all dogs, I think any dog deserves a home. And even if you have a dog who's been born already into like a puppy mill or, just like a normal breeder kind of thing, they still need a home as well. But just when you can find a dog that's had this rough upbringing, and it just connects you with your ability to understand that the past is the past, and now you can move forward with what you have given. And the rescue's just there. It's just a cool thing to think that these guys were, many of them were probably going to be put down and stuff, and now they have this home and they sit on this little chair and enjoy it, and they teach you a lot of stuff because it's not a blank canvas like a normal, I feel like other dogs are. You can kind of mold them more. You have to adapt and think more on the fly, and it connects you more with the dog, and realizing they have a past just like yours, and you got to live for today and stuff. It's my parents just rescued one. They an older lady couldn't take the dog anymore, so they rescued a Wrigley. My Bashan he's got to be close. He's got to be 8, somewhere between 8 and 10. I'm guessing he's getting older. And then they rescued like a 13-year-old little Bashan called Sammy, and Sammy's a trip. But it's really cool to see how he came in, and his hair was really patchy. He looked really tattered and stuff, and now his coat's coming back. He's got some skin issues, but it's just cool to see how you put the dog into an environment, and it just quickly will flourish if you give it what it needs. And he's kind of like a grumpy old guy where he doesn't get his food, he'll just start barking until you feed him, kind of thing. And my parents are kind of pushovers, so they're like, okay. But so I forgot they actually technically had rescued one as well. So we're growing. Oh, you know what? My sister has as well. What am I saying? My sister rescued 2 little Shih Tzus. So we actually have quite the rescue family. We go over there for dinner, and it's like the little dog brigade. There's 6 little dogs that are about as high as your mid shin running around. So it gets a little hectic. And they those 4 like each other, and they don't really like mine. So my guys are kind of like the outcast in the playground, which is kind of funny sometimes. They're all older, and mine are younger, and my 2 play with each other kind of hard, so they'll go play with the older dogs, and then they'll protect them, and it's just kind of like it's getting better. But there were some times there where the dogs were a little feisty towards mine. There's one, Harriet, one of the little Shih Tzus, is kind of a rough one. She's not the nicest puppy in my opinion, but she's cool. She just gets really ticked off at Cosmo. She does not like Cos.
Dog behavior and human behavior, there are some parallels, right?
Oh, for sure. It's like a playground.
What does, other than the beautiful home/lake home, what other plans do you have for the rest of this year going into 2017?
Well, the podcast has taken up a lot of time and energy, but it's scary. So I'm trying to overcome the fear of that and figure out the rhythm and keep that moving forward. But I don't know. I try and not to think too hard on it. I got to keep teaching, keep going. I'm getting a second master's degree right now in education, so curriculum and design kind of thing. Oh, it's not too bad. It's an online course, so it's not too rough with that one. But my goal is always I just want to be happy. I just want to enjoy moving on, keep going, have more smiles than frowns throughout the day, and learn as much as I can. Keep the podcast. I want that to keep going, put my energy forth towards that, keep the dogs happy, and move in and just try and meet some new people. And maybe I'll find a girlfriend sooner or later.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't try not to plan too much, right? Like John Lennon said, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. So just keep crushing along and see what happens.
That's great. How do folks find Alex Hofeldt?
You can find me on Facebook. Facebook is just Alex Hofeldt, Hofeldt. I also have Facebook /Beautiful Dust Specks now. You want any yoga advice or fitness or anything like that? I also have /Yobility, like yo and then mobility, so Yobility. Then what else do we got? We have @the_SciencePro on Twitter, and that's it. Comes up as Beautiful Dust Specks. BeautifulDustSpecks.com. That's like the blog where I post everything in the show notes, and you can actually comment and talk to me on there. And then Instagram as well. I have Beautiful Dust Specks on Instagram. So pretty much any of the media things you can do. They're all fun. But you can start at the BeautifulDustSpecks.com, and that links to all my other pages and such, and go forth from there. But I'd love to talk to people, especially if you listen to the podcast. If they listen to the podcast, I'd love some direct feedback from Messenger or anything, and what'd you like, what you didn't like you just said, like that. I really want to increase the conversation with my audience to where start giving me topics. And the other mission with it is I want to start asking people, anyone who wants to be on it or answer, what's the most astounding thing you've ever learned, followed by, what do you, now that you're older or wherever you're at in your life, like what do you wish you could have learned more of in your education or just in life in general, and kind of see where that goes. It spins off of a Neil deGrasse YouTube video. So that's my long-term mission with the podcast.
If a listener says to you, Alex, or a new listener says, Alex, what is the one episode I should listen to of your podcast? What would you say?
That's a tough one. I liked episode 2 on learning, and then episode the whale poop one, the connection. Was that episode 11? Connection to connections is pretty cool. Honestly, you can just kind of pick them.
We want to say thank you to Alex Hofeldt for sharing his story. Make sure to listen to Beautiful Dust Specks on your favorite podcast app, or simply go to his website. If you want to learn more about Alex, go to our show notes at thisispawprint.com/58. If you'd like to nominate someone to be a future guest on Paw Print, you can email us at thisispawprint.com/contact. To listen to more episodes of Paw Print, you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, and YouTube, along with your favorite podcast app. Make sure to hit subscribe to get the latest episodes immediately. If you'd like to meet me or Nancy on social media, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Look for This Is Paw Print. If you want to Facebook friend me, my name is Harold Ree. Go ahead and make that friend request. I can guarantee I'm not as smart as Alex Hofeldt, but we'll give it a shot. We want to thank all of you listeners out there for sharing Paw Print with your friends and family. We have finally reached 100 countries. We're actually at 101 countries that have listened to Paw Print. The latest 2 countries have been Qatar in the Middle East, as well as Luxembourg in Europe. So thank you, everyone. Don't forget, if you want to get 2 free resources, bonus resources on dog training from our favorite positive reinforcement dog trainer, Erie Bloom, simply go to thisispawprint.com/ask and sign up. Remember that you spread a positive message of love and peace by saving an animal. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next time with another great guest on Paw Print.
Paw Print is a production of EVER Education.
You can't handle the truth.